Today we're going to talk about new perfumes that I added to my collection. Some of them I actually been kind of holding on to for quite some time because I don't know why. There's no reason. It just is. So I'm finally ready to show you.
I feel like I don't have a single haul these days without at least one Histoire de Perfumes appearing in there. I'm slowly but surely making my way through all the discount stores and just like chipping away at getting all of their base perfumes. Unfortunately, I'm not sure I can get them all, but it's becoming a bit of like a dangerous collecting kind of obsession. So the one that I got here to show you is 1740. If I'm not mistaken, this is either Marquis de Sade. Oh yeah, this is Marquis de Sade. Alright, I feel like there's a theme to my haul tonight. We're gonna be exploring so many facets of sex marketing. Oh boy. Anyway, just wanted to show you. I don't know, I adore their packaging. It's so on point, it's so stylistically cohesive. So this is what we get here. I got myself 60 milliliters, which looks like a half of a book, like a book cut in the middle. And I must say, I do prefer the Marketing Fairy Tales by Histoire de Perfumes a little bit more. But let's see if this is gonna impress us. I'm gonna meanwhile just do a little spray. Okay, here we go. Histoire de Perfumes. Are you ready? Are you ready? 1740, dedicated to Marquis de Sade. A truly unflinching scent for the modern male hedonist. Marquis de Sade, born 1740, the most ribald thinker and writer of the French Enlightenment. Okay, this is very cerebral, this is very intelligent, kind of, like highbrow way of describing. This libertine had an insatiable taste for debauchery, lust, and excess. See, I kind of dig those kind of imagery. Debauchery, lust, and excess, sign me in. I can see myself in there, I can picture at least a weekend of that kind. Okay, this is delicious, I must say, I love it. Probably in small quantities though, because what it gives me up front, and I also wore it once, it's kind of very leather, smoky leather, but not the kind that you can find in some of Tom Ford's or Memo Paris. This one is much softer and more round. It's not as austere and BDSM like, it's not harsh. This is just smooth, so smooth. What do we have at the beginning? Bergamot, Davana sensualis. Okay, the notes are in French. Patchouli, coriander, cardamom. I think cardamom, that's what gives it such beautiful spicy roundness, because leathery, the fragrances that are centered around leather and kind of smokiness are often almost like too abrasive. The notes of the base: cedar, cyst labdanum, below, what is below? Cuir, leather, vanille, immortelle. Oh, I don't know how they managed to create such a sensual skin-like musky impression without really overdosing on different synthetic musks. Because I thought it was some kind of warm skin-like musk that gave it such smoothness, but no, this is probably labdanum, cardamom, and immortelle, I imagine. Oh, this is exquisite, I must say. Sweet without being too sweet, smoky without being smoked, leathery without being rough. This is like exquisite anticipation of excess, of night of excess. This, like, to me, it's not the night of debauchery, lust and excess. This is the anticipation. This is like the day before, when you can't escape the pictures, the imagination just runs wild, and you're just like, oh, tomorrow is gonna be something else. This is what the kind of vibe it gives me, because it's not that inappropriate or animalic to really go overboard. Again, Histoire de Parfums can't do vulgar in my book, even if they tried. Like, everything they come up with, even if it is referencing lust and excess, and for God's sake, it's devoted to Marquis de Sade, but they can't do vulgar. Everything they come up with is just so exquisitely, perfectly pinched and just placed together. Oh, I love it. Definitely unisex. You can hear by the notes. This is definitely not the girly perfume, but it is not harsh, and therefore very, very on her, on him kind of friendly. Perfume for the two, for the night of debauchery, lust and excess, if you're into that kind of thing, tonight or tomorrow. All right. The next one is gonna be a sharp departure. A blind buy, because it was just way too cheap to let go. This is Comptoir South Pacific, a rather unusual line for them, when they went to oceanic and very ozonic perfumes. This is one off. They have quite a few, apparently, in that kind of line. It was just so cheap. It was, I think, 20 something bucks. So I just had to give it a chance. It's called Eau de la Gance. I think so. Eau de Toilette. It is Eau de Toilette, but I must say I wore it a few times. It's definitely Eau de Parfum. It's giving me vibes of a proper perfume, to be honest. All right. If you love Eden by Cacharel, if you're looking for swampy, tropical, kind of like these like humid, poisonous lianas, kind of like tropical forest type of perfumes, but you don't want for them to be overdosed on tuberose like Eden is by Cacharel, this is the one. To me, this is the most luxurious, decadent swamp. It's kind of heavy though. It's not, like a lot of lotus, like water lily, all of those like wet perfumes are rather like have high frequency. They are very vibrant and thin. This is not it. This really is rich and heavy in the heart. There's like, it's salty, swampy, humid, somewhat tropical, but I can't say that it is fruity. Eau de la Gance to me is kind of like getting drunk on the finest dark rum or whiskey, sitting in the middle of tropical forest. Unusual, niche in its profile, but I like it. I'm digging it for sure. The other one that is kind of like in the same, supposed to be in the same family, but turns out to have quite a different profile. This is by Montal and it's called Oud Forest. It's just coincidental that I ordered both of them at the same time, and they are kind of hitting on very similar notes. A few notes about the packaging. This is 50 ml. Hard to believe because it's a teeny tiny bottle. A few notes about the packaging. Definitely very recognizable, I'll give it that, but it just doesn't really ring very luxury to me. I appreciate the pouch, like the thought is definitely there, but I do feel the Montal fragrances are in dire need of a refresh, like kind of like a redesign, maybe not severe one, but somewhat like a more delicate touch, because as recognizable and iconic these bottles used to be back in the day, it's been probably good 10 years, so maybe it's time to try something new. So that's one reason why I don't like the packaging. All right, I just fished out the spray. Oud Forest by Montal. Since I was so obsessed with fougères and shippers, I decided that I will try to segue from them toward woody marine kind of fragrances for the summer. I haven't been using my ozonic fragrances forever. I have a fairly good selection of them, but I just don't quite gravitate toward them anymore. So I thought if I go through kind of like the depth of woodiness and the green notes coming from shippers and fougères, maybe somehow I could land in the right place and start wear them again. So this is exactly that. Somewhat oceanic, this like typical kind of like ocean breeze, somewhat salty notes. I don't really feel oud in this, to be honest. I'm sure it's probably there somewhere, but I don't really get oud as a prominent note. And Montal has probably at this point 50 or more fragrances that claim to have oud in them. So Oud Forest, I think Montal also have a very similarly kind of like framed fragrance at Fougère Marine, maybe? Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But Oud Forest, to me, is just like very well made, monoaccord, not much depth to it, but like a very confident, pleasing, oceanic fragrance. It's much lighter actually in the way that it sits in terms of the notes than the Eau de Lagans by Comptoir South Pacific. But I kind of feel I should compare them because they're somewhat in the same family, but they do have very different profiles. Comptoir South Pacific Eau de Lagans is tropical, humid, and swampy. This is very much like an ocean breeze. It has heart and substance to it, but it kind of just sits much lighter. I can't call it a light perfume because Montal perfumes last forever. If you're looking for something that's gonna stay with you for 8 hours, this is your brand, for better or for worse. Very uncharacteristic because Montals are mostly known for their rose musks, for their like unapologetically sweet boiled musks. This is not it. This is a very prime example of potent, bright, confident, oceanic fragrance. But the one that is a little bit more substantiated in the heart rather than the top notes. I don't really feel any of those like refreshing or cold bergamot notes there or citrusy notes there. None of that. I would wear it. I know some people probably would claim that this is like a male type of perfume, or at least in the marketing, you know, in the targeting, it probably would fall closer to be targeted toward men rather than women. But to me, it's truly unisex. There's nothing about it that I wouldn't consider wearing on myself. So yeah, I'm very excited to wear it right now because I think August is the prime time for oceanic, swampy, kind of salty type of fragrances. And the last one for today in this haul is going to be a rather lucky blind buy. I only learned after I purchased it how rare this bottle is, and it's like not that easy to find them. So this is Safari by Ralph Lauren. First things first, very cheap packaging. Oh my god, I was kind of concerned that I got a fake, to be honest, at first, because I expected much more from Ralph Lauren. This is very cheap. Just not really worth the brand name that's on it. I like the bottle. It kind of makes me think of those kind of like whiskey glasses. The spray though, like there's something disproportionate about the spray versus the bottle, and the super duper cheap plastic here, it's just sad, to be honest. It's a little bit upsetting. But Safari by Ralph Lauren, if you look at the comments on Fragrantica, maybe some other places, a lot of people who lived in Middle East claim in all seriousness that Safari by Ralph Lauren is the most realistic representation of the smell of hot desert sand. So if you lived there in Turkey, I guess Egypt, maybe Saudi Arabia, and you traveled through the deserts, that you will without a doubt recognize this as a very representative scent, something that you smell there. I've never really traveled through the desert, so I don't know. What I feel here is a very, to me, kind of green combination of spices. I wanted to say dry, but I don't really consider green notes to be dry. I had to look up the description because I was getting a little bit confused. So it is balsamic, and I was kept trying to understand what gives me this kind of like green green effect. And it does have lily of the valley, rose, and narcissus and iris. I think it's almost like the root of iris, like the green stalks of flowers that I feel here. Maybe that's narcissus too. Narcissus can have that kind of effect. The base is composed of vetiver, moss. Okay, now it makes sense, right? All together definitely gives you this confident fougere green type of accord. Tonka bean and styrax. It was created in 1990. Ho, that's vintage, 30 years old, by Dominique Ropillon. That's a master perfumer. Okay, so again, I don't claim to be an expert. I've never been in the Middle Asia deserts. But to me, the green notes don't really let it go toward hot, dry sand. As I said, I'm not really an expert about Middle Eastern deserts, or African deserts to that matter. But the such prominent presence of green, kind of the spring flowers, narcissus, iris, and the green notes of vetiver, moss, all that good stuff, they don't really let my imagination go in the direction of dry desert, like hot desert sand. I would rather say it is a this is like dry moss to me, a little bit dusty. I wouldn't say powdery, more like dusty. If I was pressed to find a fragrance that most resembles hot sand, personally to me, that would be actually Samsara by Guerlain. For whatever reason, that to me is much closer to the hot desert scents than Safari by Ralph Lauren. But again, there are like quite a few confident opinions there that it is what desert smells like. It's not an easy perfume, I must tell you. There is something about it, even though this is the version that's marketed toward women, because they also have a male, like a homme counterpart. It's just, there's nothing about it that's trying to flirt with you or appeal to you, you know, like, or to seduce you. This is not one of those perfumes. I feel like, well, I think granted it was made in 1990, where a lot of emphasis was on genderless perfumes. That's when the oceanic, the new molecules were created. There's so like the whole layer, the whole family of perfumes was discovered basically in the 90s. So it's not a surprise to me that a lot of fragrances from that era smell both nostalgic but almost alien in the modern times, where the market is dominated by caramelly, sugary, syrupy sweets. So I find that this perfume now reads very niche. If you can find it, I got mine on eBay. If you can find it for fairly cheap, and you enjoy some Sarah from Guerlain, you do wonder about dry green spices, and you like fougères in general, that could be very interesting. It's not bitter, it's not zesty, it's kind of like dusty with somewhat floral, I guess that's rose, floral soft edge. But I can't really call it charming or alluring. This is not a, that's not a mass appeal type of fragrance, but I'm really happy that I got it. I will try to get better acquainted with it because that's very intriguing profile to me. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you so much for staying with me for so long. I hope you enjoyed this video somewhat. Let me know what you think of these notes, of these perfumes, of these brands. Have you tried anything new lately? What was kind of like, what's keeping your, how do you keep your spirits up? What kind of perfumes allow you to enjoy life as it is right now with all of these restrictions, challenges, and happy and not so happy moments? I'll be waiting for your comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, please share if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.